Well, following the recent death of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, Israel announced today its military has killed Fatah Shirifa, a Hamas leader in Lebanon, to coordinate with Hezbollah. Military officials confirmed that commando units had made incursions into Lebanese territories, but say no decision has been made regarding a full ground assault, even as the barrage against Hezbollah continues. Israel has also begun targeting Houthi fighters in Yemen, fighting back at another Iranian-backed terrorist militia. Now, this comes as the Biden administration is once again trying to tie the hands of Israel.
I'm going to stick with this subject, but go ahead.
Well, just the fact that Israel may be now launching a limited operation into Lebanon. Are you aware of that? Are you comfortable with their plans?
I'm more aware than you might know, and I'm comfortable with them stopping. We should have a ceasefire now.
That was President Joe Biden earlier today, again calling for a ceasefire. Joining me now from Israel to discuss this is Daniel Cohen, news director for Real Life Network, a sponsor of this year's Pray Vote Stand Summit. Daniel, welcome back to Washington Watch.
It's a pleasure to be with you here, Tony, and it's a pleasure to be with Washington Watch, and the best to you and everybody at FRC, and also my condolences to your family and to your loss.
Thank you, and look forward to seeing you at the Pray Vote Stand Summit. I know you're going to be traveling across the ocean here shortly. So let's talk about the latest there in Israel. A big weekend, a lot happening, and it does not look like anything's slowing down.
No, Tony, you know, even in the setup, what you were just mentioning, there were about 5 major headlines in any other place, but in Israel, they're basically, it's a headline for an hour and then it gets pushed aside. The person that you were talking about, the Hamas commander who was killed in Lebanon by Israel, he was actually on UNRWA's payroll. Let me say that again. The Hamas commander, Fateh, and I'm sorry, I can't do his name justice, but you mentioned in the intro to me and the toss here, was on UNRWA's payroll. UNRWA is an organization that's supposed to be helping civilians in Gaza with food, water, the basic necessities of life, not supposed to be helping terrorists. You know, Israel found computers, they found entire server systems in tunnels under the UNRWA facility. It's unbelievable. You know, it's unbelievable. But getting back to your question about President Biden, I'm not even surprised anymore, Tony. I'm not surprised because the United States has been hampering Israel's efforts to defeat Hamas and to eradicate the radical Islamic terrorists that are hell-bent on destroying the Jewish state. You know, remember, don't go into Rafah. Don't go into Rafah. They went into Rafah. What happens? Israel finds there are hostages there. Hamas executing hostages right before Israel's literally within moments or hours of rescuing them. President Biden has been wrong. Almost, not completely, but almost every step of the way. And he's been straddling the fence between, I believe, the uncommitted voters of Michigan, of Wisconsin, and trying to, you know, he's almost put a governor switch on Israel, or tried to, the withholding of shipments of weapons and weaponry. Something has changed, Tony. Something has changed in the last 2 weeks. I think Israel realizes, or maybe has finally had this revelation of this moment, that the people that are on Israel's side are on Israel's side. That's people like you, that's evangelicals, but the people who aren't, that Israel just has to do what it has to do. The strike on Nasrallah was a marvel. And what we're hearing here, I'm just outside Tel Aviv, that's where I live, is people that are secular, people that don't even know the Bible, saying that was biblical. It was carried out against Hassan Nasrallah. It was biblical in its execution, in its thought, and how it played out. And the pager attack, which was just a week earlier, I mean, the Hezbollah, the Lebanese terrorists were walking around with bombs on their bodies for months until Israel said, now. Think about that. I mean, the level of execution. So everyone here in Israel no one's celebrating, but everybody is definitely, I think, just marveling at the biblical scope and scale of what Israel has managed to do in the last few weeks without the help of the United States.
Yeah, I think it's quite amazing. In fact, I was reading a headline over the weekend, Israel, greatest military in the world. And I was just thinking about, you know, the Bible, biblical, how God moves on behalf of Israel so that the world will know that there is a God. And I think it is quite amazing. And not to take anything away from the talent and the skill and the dedication, but you're right in terms of the last 2 weeks. I mean, if you think about it, we're 11, 12 months into Gaza, and they've done in 2 weeks against Hezbollah what's taken them 12 months to do in Gaza, just because their hands were not tied. They just went ahead and did what needed to be done.
Yeah. You know, Tony, the Palestinian Authority has a program called Pay for Slay. And you've probably talked about it on this program, where they pay the families of terrorists who carry out violent attacks, car rammings, stabbings against Jews. And Prime Minister Netanyahu, I think I don't know if it's the new Netanyahu, but just bringing it back to the Bible. I mean, Jeremiah says, unless the sun, the moon, and the stars cease to exist, in Jeremiah, that's Jeremiah 34, right? It says, that's Israel when I will break my promise to you. The hand of God is protecting Israel. Now, there is ingenuity. We have Iron Dome. Right. We have Arrow 3. We have David's Sling. We have all those things, but I think those things are birthed through God's creativity, through the ingenuity that we have and just being in tune. But God will never break a promise to Israel. If he breaks his promise to Israel, what Gentile can stand on a promise? If he breaks his promise to Israel, he can't keep his word. And that's not the God that we love and serve.
I agree 100%. Yeah. But what this is doing in the geopolitical this is rearranging the political landscape of the Middle East. I mean, Iran has to be rethinking its aggressiveness with its proxies that are being rolled over by Israel. What's the anticipation there in Israel as to Iran's next move?
Well, I was listening to Amir Sarfati and Jack Hibbs even talking about this in their message on Sunday as well. And Amir Sarfati actually made a great point, so I want to give him the footnote and the credit. Iran can't trust their proxies anymore. Iran is, what Amir Sarfati said is they've moved the diapers from their head down because they're in their pants. The people of Iran and are different than the leadership. And I think it's really important for people there in the United States, and maybe you know and maybe you don't know this, but the Iranian regime is not well liked by the people. They are actually they want peace just as much as Israel wants peace, but we have the radicals are in charge there. Tony, did you happen to see over the weekend there were Iranians? I happened to see an Iranian community in Canada where they were dancing, where they were serving up, like I was saying, that Pay for Slay program. They will serve sweet treats when they spill the blood of Jews in Judea and Samaria, which some people call the West Bank, and in these Arab, the terrorist hotbeds. But instead of Arabs celebrating the spilled blood of Jews, there was an Iranian community in Canada dancing and sharing sweets with the Jewish community in Canada. They were all celebrating the fact that Hassan Nasrallah was dead, that he is dead, and that he isn't just any terrorist. He is the terrorist. Prime Minister Netanyahu said this wasn't just this was the terrorist. I mean, if you want to go back to the Bible, this would be David chopping the head off Goliath, holding the head up, taking it back to him with Jerusalem, because the Bible says that's what he did. He kept it with him. He showed it off to people in his tent, right? Hassan Nasrallah, they're not going to find a head. They probably won't find his body ever. They created an earthquake with so much, these bunker buster bombs that dropped one on top of another, on top of another, on top of another. So they were pummeled. But just again, Iran must be reevaluating every relationship right now, and not just with its proxies, but including the Arab relationships, which are also celebrating the fact that Israel took out one of the world's worst terrorists, Tony.
Speaking to that, earlier today, the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, spoke to the Iranian people and essentially said, look, our beef is not with you. We look for that day when there's peace between the Jewish people and the Persian people. I mean, there's an understanding that there is a division between those who are at the controls of Iran and actually the heart of Iran and the people. Yeah.
Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that multiple times. He has spoken directly to the people of Iran. He spoke directly to the civilians in Lebanon, and he told them, he said, our fight is not with you. Our battle is not with you. It's with the terror army that has hijacked. And by the way, there are a lot of Christians. There are a lot of evangelicals in Lebanon. And I don't think we should forget those people.
Yes, right.
There is a terror army there. Hezbollah is mighty, but there are Christians in Lebanon, and they must be suffering.
Right.
Because you think about it, they have to be suffering. Hassan Nasrallah killed Arabs. He killed Arabs in Syria. That's another place where we saw the dancing and the celebrations. So Prime Minister Netanyahu has spoken very directly and clearly that Lebanon, the fight is not with you, the civilians, just like he said to the people of Gaza. He said, Gaza civilians, our fight, our beef is not with you. We have to eradicate this terror network who has sworn to carry out an October 7th attack again and again and again. And Tony, I'll just tell you one more thing. I was in Sderot just a couple of days ago. And I remember when I spoke with you here in Jerusalem, you were here a few months ago. And I know you took a tour of the Gaza border communities. And Sderot is less than 2 miles from the Gaza border. It was the very first of the October 7th remembrance ceremonies that just happened a couple of days ago. And the next week, everyone here in Israel, especially, and I know people and Jewish people around the world, anybody who has a tie, has a connection to Israel, those wounds they still are very fresh. But any semblance of them sort of, scabbing over, they are being reopened, and they will be reopened. But at the ceremony in Sderot, there was a paramedic who went back. He went back to the Nova Music Festival. He went back and got 20 times. 20 times. I couldn't believe this man. Hearing his story, I said, this man is a hero. And stories like that aren't being told enough right now because there was just so much devastation in the massacre of October 7th.
Daniel Cohen, we're up against the end of the program, but 30 seconds.
Sure.
How can we in the United States, Christians, evangelicals, those who understand the Word of God, love the Jewish people, how can we be praying right now, given what you just laid out?
Yeah, beautiful, Tony. Thanks for that. The best thing that you can do, everyone, is understand this is a spiritual war. This is a spiritual battle. And some people are prayer warriors. Pray. Get on your face and pray, because we are 1 year into the October 7th. It's been almost 1 year now, and there's still a lot of work for Israel to do. Some people like to give money, and some people, there are a lot of charitable, I won't name anybody right now, but there are a lot of great charitable organizations that you can give money to. Some people actually come here, Tony. I talk to people at Hostage Square. They say, I've flown in from New Jersey. I'm here for 4 days, and I'm going to pick flowers, and I'm going to help people in the field. So pray, give money, or even come here in support. Yeah. You can do that. You can do all those things, but just understand this is a spiritual battle that's going on. God's hand is protecting Israel. He says, you're the apple of my eye. I'll never leave you or forsake you. And just keep Israel. Psalm 122, keep us in your prayers, please.
Well, Daniel, we will continue this conversation here at the Pray Vote Stand Summit coming up the end of this week. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure to be with you.